The morning sun crept through the dusty windows of a small-town diner, cutting soft golden lines across faded booths and chrome counters. The air smelled of coffee, bacon, and routine, until the door opened, and silence followed. A man stepped inside. His uniform was crisp, boots shining, medals glinting faintly in the light. Staff Sergeant David Carter, young, tall, proud, and visibly exhausted. He had just returned from deployment overseas, carrying not just the scars of battle, but the heavy silence of loss. All he wanted was a warm meal and a quiet corner. The waitress, a kind woman named Ellie, approached him with a smile. "Thank you for your service," she said softly. David nodded humbly. "Just doing my job, ma'am." But not everyone in that diner shared her respect. At the counter sat Ruth, a woman in her late 50s, sharp features hardened by years of bitterness. She turned, eyes narrowing at the sight of David in uniform. Her voice cut through the calm like broken glass. "Excuse me," she said loudly. "Why is he allowed to sit in here dressed like that?" Forks froze midair. Conversations died instantly. Ellie blinked in confusion. "Ma'am, he's a soldier. He just got back." "I don't care," Ruth snapped. "It's disruptive. Kids don't need to see soldiers showing off like that. Tell him to take it off or leave." David sat still. He'd been trained to stay calm under fire, but no training could prepare him for this kind of hostility at home. He looked at her, expression unreadable, the weight of restraint visible in his eyes. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I wear this uniform to honor those who never made it home. I don't wear it for attention." Ruth scoffed. "Save your speech. You people always think you deserve special treatment. Not here." The room went still, the kind of stillness that burns. Ellie's hands shook with anger. "That's enough, ma'am," she said firmly. "He's welcome here." Before the tension could break further, the diner door burst open. A young couple stumbled in, their faces pale with terror. "Help! Someone, please! Our boy, he's choking," the mother cried, clutching her limp 8-year-old son. David was on his feet before anyone could move. His training kicked in like instinct. "Lay him down," he ordered. The child's lips were turning blue. David dropped to his knees, performing the Heimlich with sharp, precise motions. 1, 2, 3. The boy gagged, then coughed violently, a piece of food flying free. A breath. A heartbeat. Life returned. The boy gasped and began to cry. His mother sobbed into David's shoulder. "You saved him, you saved my baby." David smiled softly. "He's okay now. You're safe." And then, silence again. Not the hostile kind this time, but reverent. Every eye in that diner turned to Ruth. The same woman who had spat venom now stood frozen, her face pale, her voice gone. David rose slowly, slipping his jacket back on. He looked at her, not with hate, but with quiet strength. "You wanted me to take this uniform off," he said evenly. "But this is what it stands for. Not parades. Not pride. Saving lives. Protecting families. Even when those families don't see me as one of their own." No one spoke. Ruth's lip trembled, her eyes glistening. Ellie crossed her arms. "Maybe you should be the one to leave, ma'am." The diner hummed with murmurs of agreement. Ruth turned away, shame flooding her face. But before she could leave, the sound of tires screeching cut through the moment. 2 men in dark suits entered, flashing badges. "Staff Sergeant David Carter," one said. "You need to come with us. Now." David frowned. "What's this about?" "Classified orders," the man replied. "Urgent matter." Ellie's eyes widened. "He just saved a child's life, can't it wait?" But the men were firm. David sighed, buttoned his jacket, and nodded to the family. "Take care of your boy," he said softly. Then, turning to Ruth, he added, "And ma'am, I hope one day you understand the weight of what you judged." As he stepped outside, a black SUV idled by the curb. Across the street, a dark van sat parked, engine running, a silhouette watching through tinted glass. David's instincts screamed. Something was wrong. The suited men guided him toward the vehicle. "We have to move," one muttered. David looked once more toward the diner, where moments ago, hate had turned into gratitude. He climbed into the SUV, and the doors slammed shut. The vehicle sped off into the distance, leaving behind the smell of coffee, fear, and silence. And as David glanced out the window, he saw the van begin to follow. His gut tightened. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The night air was thick with tension as the black SUV tore down the empty highway, headlights slicing through the fog. Inside, Staff Sergeant David Carter sat rigid, his instincts screaming that something wasn't right. The two men in suits flanking him said little, their expressions carved in stone. Finally, David spoke, his voice low but sharp. "You still haven't told me where we're going." The agent on his right flashed a badge too quickly to read. "Department of Defense. Special Unit Retrieval. Orders classified." David's jaw tightened. Classified. That word always carried a chill, especially when paired with silence. And then, in the reflection of the side mirror, he saw it, headlights. The dark van that had been watching him at the diner. It was following. David's pulse quickened. "We're being tailed." The agents exchanged uneasy glances. The driver pressed harder on the gas, the engine growling. The van matched their speed. Then, the first shot rang out. Glass shattered. The SUV swerved violently. David ducked low as bullets riddled the back window. The driver shouted, "They're targeting us." David's instincts took over. "Kill the lights. Brake hard on my mark." The driver obeyed. The SUV plunged into darkness, screeching to a sudden halt. The van shot past, skidding sideways on the wet road. David threw open the door, leapt out, and fired twice, his aim deadly precise. The van's tires exploded, sending it spinning off the road and crashing into a ditch. But the victory was short-lived. From the wreck emerged armed men, mercenaries, faces hidden behind masks. David recognized their insignia instantly. It was the same shadow group from his last overseas mission, the one responsible for war crimes he had exposed. This wasn't a government pickup. It was a setup. He turned on the agents, fury burning through him. "You sold me out." The shorter one's eyes filled with regret. "We didn't know. We were told it was a transfer order." Before he could finish, gunfire erupted again. The driver went down instantly. David dragged the remaining agent behind cover, returning fire with the fallen man's weapon. Bullets tore through metal, sparks flying. "You wanted me gone," David muttered, steadying his aim. "But I'm not that easy to erase." The battle raged for minutes that felt like hours. David moved like a ghost, precise, focused, unstoppable. One by one, the mercenaries fell until silence swallowed the night again. Then, headlights in the distance. Another vehicle approached fast. David raised his weapon, ready, until a voice shouted through the open window. "Carter! Stand down!" David froze. He knew that voice. Colonel Jackson. His old commanding officer, a man he believed was dead. The colonel stepped out, eyes weary but burning with urgency. "You're in danger, son. They're cleaning house. Anyone who ever stood against them is being erased." David lowered his weapon slowly. "Then why are you here?" Jackson stepped closer, handing him a phone. "Because you need to see this." On the screen was a live feed, a woman tied to a chair, tears streaking her face. Ruth. The same woman who had humiliated him hours earlier. Behind her stood masked mercenaries. One of them spoke coldly into the camera. "You have something we want, Carter. Come alone, or she dies." David's stomach turned. The irony hit like a hammer. The woman who had once spat on his service was now depending on it to survive. Jackson placed a hand on his shoulder. "You don't owe her anything." David stared at the screen, jaw tight. "Maybe not. But I owe myself the peace of knowing I did what was right." Minutes later, he was geared up, body armor, sidearm, flashlight. The location trace led to an abandoned steel mill on the edge of town. Shadows moved inside, voices echoing. David moved like smoke, silent and precise. He slipped through a side door, pistol raised. Inside, flickering light revealed Ruth bound to a chair in the center of the room. A mercenary stood behind her, knife glinting. "Let her go," David ordered. Laughter rippled through the room. From the shadows, a tall figure stepped forward, the leader, scarred and cold-eyed. "You should have died overseas, Carter. You saw too much. Spoke too much." David's finger tightened on the trigger. "Guess I'm still not great at following orders." Gunfire erupted. David dove behind cover, returning fire with deadly precision. Ruth screamed as chaos filled the mill. One mercenary fell, then another. The leader fired wildly, but David was faster, closer, relentless. A final shot echoed, and it was over. Smoke hung in the air. David approached slowly, lowering his weapon. The leader lay motionless. Ruth sobbed, trembling. David cut the ropes binding her wrists. "You're safe now." She looked up at him, ashamed, broken. "Why? After everything I said to you, why would you save me?" David met her eyes, calm and steady. "Because that's what this uniform stands for. Doing what's right, even when the world doesn't." As he turned to leave, flashing lights filled the horizon, police, backup finally arriving. But just as David exhaled in relief, a faint click echoed behind him. He spun around. The mercenary leader, bleeding, but alive, had a detonator in hand, a twisted smile on his face. "You saved one life tonight, soldier," he rasped. "Let's see how many you can't save next." The light on the detonator turned red. David's eyes widened. "Ruth, run." The explosion tore through the night, a blinding flash swallowing the mill in fire and dust. Then, silence. Smoke billowed into the sky, and from within the flames, a single shadow staggered forward, David, barely standing, his uniform scorched but his spirit unbroken. He looked back once, then up at the burning sky, whispering, "The war's over, but the truth isn't."